Welcome back. What you should have at this point is a really solid animation that reveals your logo or your name. And I'm going to show you now how to polish it up and do some compositing to add a little more style. Compositing. What is the deal with all these weird words in After Effects? To be honest, I don't know, but I can tell you what compositing is. It's basically a technique where you are combining different elements together and adjusting the way they look together to get a desired effect. So an example of visual effects compositing would be you have a video of a muzzle flash and you add it on top of a video of someone shooting a gun, and then you adjust the way it blends into the scene by adjusting the lighting and adding lighting fall off on the character, adding smoke, whatever it is. It's about adding together all these different elements, adjusting the way they blend together to get your desired result. Compositing for animation is a similar technique where we're going to be using effects and different layers to add lighting and make our flat animation look a little more stylized. Quick side note, After Effects is actually a compositing software designed to add effects after video. It wasn't originally designed to be animation software, which is why some of the current ways you do things are a little weird, but it is very powerful for both things, and the fact that it can composite and animate in one package means you can create stuff like this without having to go into another software. All right, that's enough background. Let's get into After Effects again. Now make sure you have saved your project, so you should hit Command S, Control S. I'm going to keep reminding you of that because I've suffered through many data loss issues. So we have our animation and we have this just flat blue color in our box here. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to add a little extra style to our hero shape. So I'm going to select this layer and I'm going to show you about layer styles. Layer styles are very similar to layer styles in Photoshop. And I'm going to right click, except for this goes off screen. So I'm going to go up here and click on layer with my layer selected, go to layer styles and add a gradient overlay. So this gradient overlay adds a gradient on top of our shape layer, and we can get some custom lighting looking effects. So the nice thing about this is it actually maintains the direction of the gradient. So if we added a gradient directly to our shape layer, it wouldn't, it would change with our shape, so it wouldn't actually look like lighting. We're gonna kind of hack this a little bit, and if we click on this arrow and we close up the contents and the transform, because we don't need to see those, you now see this new little section called layer styles. So I'm gonna go down into gradient overlay, and we're going to click edit gradient. So now here we can change these two colors. Now I'm going to reverse these so we have light on top and dark on the bottom, because generally the light is above and the shadow is below. And I'm actually going to cancel out of here and go to a frame where we can see our circle, because it's a little easier to tell what we're working with. So hit edit gradient again, and let's change this color stop here to be maybe like a bright blue color, and let's change this one, click here on this little box, to be a dark color. Now we have this almost 3D looking sphere instead of our flat shape. All right, so we'll probably be changing these settings throughout as we figure out exactly what we want this to look like. And for now, I'm going to go into the gradient overlay settings, and I'm going to change this from normal down here all the way at the bottom of the screen to overlay. So that actually made our colors almost disappear, and that's because overlay is just another way of blending the colors. And this is something that you'll just have to play around with. There's tons of little stuff like this in After Effects. It's just like Photoshop. It's a really powerful software. And to be honest, I don't really get all these things all the time. I just kind of click through until I find something that I like. And then sometimes I can't quite repeat it. So, you know, we're learning this together. So I'm going to adjust the opacity down a little bit, and then go up here to the original fill color. So this is the color underneath the gradient. And let's see what happens when we change that. So as you can see, we get a slightly different color depending on what color is at the base. I'm gonna make this kind of a mid-tone color so we get a little bit more of our gradient back in there. So now we have a little bit more of a subtle color difference. And yeah, let's start playing with these colors. So let's go down into the background color, and I'm gonna make this, you know what, I kind of like that darker midnight blue look. And I'm gonna adjust that, and then I'm going to click here on circle 4, because remember this needs to be the same color as our background, and I'm going to eyedropper pick the same fill color for circle 4. So now we have this new look. This is a whole different style. I kind of like having this dark background because you'll see we're gonna add some glows later, and that's gonna look a lot better with this dark background. All right, if we go back and we look at this original one that I did, you can see that we have this actual like rim light effect on our ball, and I want to go ahead and recreate something like that. So let's go back into our logo reveal, and we're going to go to our shape layer. One last thing that I want to do before we do that is I think I want to make this shape a little bigger. So I'm going to go in and click down into our contents, into the size of the rectangle path, and just drag that up a little bit. And then because I made that, let's go up to like 250. Because I made that a little bigger, let's go to our first keyframe on roundness. We'll drag that and make sure we've got a perfect circle. So about 150. Okay, let's close that back up and get back to compositing. Again, that's a reminder. It's all about just tweaking things and playing with things and changing things. No matter how many times I do this, I always run into something that I have to go back and fix. That's just the way the world works. All right, let's close up our gradient overlay and let's add some extra lighting here. So I'm gonna go to a nice clean frame, and we are going to add our first effect. So we haven't gotten into effects yet, but effects are a big part of After Effects. Makes sense given the name. We're going to go up to the effect panel, or up to the effect menu up here, and go to generate CC light sweep. So this is one of my favorite effects. It's kind of a random one, but I'm just showing you there's like a billion things you can do in this. You can see there's so many different plugins. There's lots of ones that aren't even default with After Effects that you can do some crazy powerful stuff with. I'm just gonna show you CC light sweep because I like it. So you can see that there is this little weird controller here that we can drag around, and it adjusts this light sweep that goes across our ball. So that's actually how I created this effect. And I did it by just putting this kind of up here in the corner and then messing with these settings over here in the effect controls panel to get the look that I was looking for. So I'll leave that at like 30%. I'm gonna change this from sharp to smooth because I like the way that smooth sounds. And I'm gonna make the width a little bigger, and then I'll leave this sweep intensity around there. And then the edge intensity you can see is kind of that edge light there. I'm gonna leave it where it is and increase the thickness a little bit. Maybe just kind of play around with these numbers until you get a cool result. I'm also gonna change the light color. Let's say we're playing with blue, so if we're thinking about the color wheel, across from blue, it's kind of a yellow, maybe. And we can find a color that looks nice in contrast. Although, let me just drag through here. We can drag through our wheel and find something. Ooh, that pink is looking cool. All right, we're gonna go with pink. So we got a cool pink light there. Look at that. So you got a sweet ball that has these extra colors, and you did it in just a few clicks. And that looks like it's a complicated effect, but it really isn't. Like you managed to pull that off. And you've never used After Effects before. That's pretty cool. Okay, so let's play through this and look at that. You've got a cool, awesome pink gradient ball shape thing. That looks way more difficult to do than it really was. All right, so now that we're working with kind of this more of a neon looking color, I'm gonna change some of these circle colors to make sure they fit the new style a little bit better. So I'm gonna change this circle 2 to kind of a purplish, still keeping it in the midtones. Change circle 3 to more of a, ooh yeah, that looks nice, bluish. And now we have something that looks a little more stylistically congruent. How about that vocabulary? All right, what's next? Adjustment layers. So we can create a new adjustment layer by going up to Layer, New, Adjustment Layer. And an adjustment layer is basically a transparent layer that adds effects to everything beneath it. So whatever you do to this layer, it will affect all of the layers beneath it. So this, when we added the light sweep earlier, it only affects our hero shape, and that's why it only shows up here. If we do something on this adjustment layer, it'll affect everything beneath it. If I go to Effect, Color Correction, Hue and Saturation down here, then we can actually play with this hue, and you can see we can change the color of our entire animation. Now, you can actually set keyframes on this, so if you wanted to have this like strobe through all these colors, you could do that if you want. But that'd be a little wild, so calm down. I'm going to turn this effect off, and by clicking this FX button, so now we have that hidden effect. We can use it later if we want. So we're going to hit Enter while selecting this adjustment layer and call it CC for color correction. And we're going to add another effect on here. So I'm just going to right click in this Effect Controls panel, which if you don't see that, you can go to Effect, Effect Controls. And I'm going to add a stylize all the way down here. Sorry, it's off screen again. Glow. So now this kind of looks bad, but we're going to make it look good. That's my goal here. All right, so we just got to play with these numbers because I can never quite remember what they do. But let's play with the threshold here and lower that down a little bit, or bring it up, the number up, and so it isn't quite so dramatic. And we're going to bring the radius way out so it's more of a subtle glow. And then the intensity, I think we can increase that a little bit. And feel free to copy these numbers or just play with them as you see fit. And now you can see that we have this awesome glow on our layer that especially looks nice with this dark background. So I'm going to just play with these numbers a little bit more. Maybe something like 87, a radius like 300 something, and an intensity 1.5. And let's hit play. That looks nice. And now you can see it actually made our logo glow too. Just a little bit much of a glow, so I'm going to turn that intensity down a little bit. So the last thing we're going to do is we're going to add some noise on top of this by going to Effect, Noise and Grain, Noise, and make sure that's going onto your adjustment layer here, your CC adjustment layer. We'll make this like 3%, and that'll help break up this a little bit and make it a little bit more of a stylized render. And then we can play around with this threshold a little bit. I kind of like how it looks a little lower, and then a little bit lower intensity, so it's more of a soft glow. And we got our logo at the end. Okay, you have just composited your first animation. You took it from something that was flat and simple and made it something really stylized and glowy and with gradients. As you can see, by piling up different lighting and effects on a simple animation like this, you can get something that looks a lot more pro and a lot more visually interesting than you thought you might be able to this early on in your After Effects adventure. In the next video, I'm going to show you how to export this animation in a format that's easily compatible with your phone and with social media, all that good stuff. And I'll be giving you some closing tips and some further resources about where you can go from here.